Well, that was the end of episode 11. And
and our sanity. I'm going to be editing this forever. It's okay. I have time.
Whew. Welcome to the Kdrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the Kdrama Show with Ashley and Kim. It's your turn to be sick.
I guess.
Please don't share.
I think I'm fine. I watched
You think you're fine.
I watched my niece on Wednesday. It's Friday, so I think I'm good.
It'll be fine. We're good.
It's the heartbreak of BTS is officially gone.
Yes.
So
gone
sad.
but never forgotten.
Never forgotten. Oh gosh, no. The pictures of Namjoon and Taeyoung's enlistment, and it was all 7 of them together again.
All 7?
Yeah, Yoongi was able to show up. Jin took the day off, I believe. Hosuk was there. Everybody was there for Namjoon and Taeyoung's. And then the next day it was Jungkook and Jimin's.
Wow.
And it was very sad.
That's really sweet.
It was adorable. The pictures were super cute of all 7 of them together. Because it's been since Jin joined. That was what, December last year? It's been a year. Now, ARMY has officially seen every single member, except for Yoongi, with their buzz cut.
The pressure is on. He's been growing his hair out, too.
Yeah. So I'm sure he's adorable. I know I sent some pictures to Kim, and I was like, ugh, Taeyong just looks so good with his buzz cut, regardless. Right?
It's adorable.
It's so precious, but it is a little bit heartbreaking. The last thing posted on Weverse was by Jimin, and it just said, see ya.
Oh.
And I was like, oh no. However, ARMY has been fighting.
They've gone to war.
They've gone to war. Spring Day kicked All I Want for Christmas by Mariah Carey out of first place.
and didn't they kick out of second, too?
Oh, yeah. She's, down in, 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
But Spring Day was number 1 on the charts for a while.
For a reason. It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful song. It's also 6 years old. But then I just looked and I showed Kim. No More Dream is number 1 right now on the charts.
Yep. Gotta get that debut song. It's recognition.
We were also talking about the music video.
Oh, it's exciting.
It's 10 years old.
It may show just a little bit, but
it's a bit.
We love ourselves a classic BTS.
We do. It's a bit dated in the style.
Doesn't matter.
And then they were the leading for style towards the end before anybody enlisted.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, they have
for years.
Gucci contracts. I mean,
right. For years they were leading.
Yeah.
So they
100%.
Obviously, I mean, it's BTS. They killed it. But so yeah.
Sad
It was
day.
so sad.
Spring day.
It was a very sad spring day. As it's winter here.
Number 1 in our hearts, number 1 on the charts. So should we get to it?
Oh, this is going to be a long one, y'all.
It's probably going to be a 2-parter.
Potentially.
Because, 6 pages of typed notes is...
And 4 for me.
There was a lot to unpack in this episode.
You have to understand, this is what we've been building to. This is the climax of
this
everything
story
that has
arc.
been happening. Yeah.
The major conflict. Yeah, it's reached its breaking point, or its tipping point.
Up.
So, you want to catch us up? Episode 10.
I did have to do a little bit of a reading because it's been a week since
It's been a hot minute.
So, last time, look, I'm going to YeongJoon, well, he met the sisters. Clam digging, that was
exciting.
so precious.
Such a great outfit. Speaking of fashion.
Honestly. Adorable.
Ajima.
Yes, I am an Ajima at heart. Kim called me an Ajima the other, what was it, a month or so ago?
Like 2.
Was it 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I own that. I've been called a grandma, which is different than an Ajima in some respects.
It's in the same spirit.
But, like, I've been called a grandma since I was, I don't know, 22, and I'm almost 30. So, clearly I own that spirit.
I love it.
But he ends up winning the sisters over.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big moment. MiSo also, going up to YeongJoon and being like, here's the thing. I know you're hiding something. And whatever it is, when you're ready to tell me, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big trust building moment. Because YeongJoon also learns about their mom and, everything that happened before she passed away, why clam digging is so important. Like, just their weekend, that one time a year that she would always take off, why that was so important to her. We also learned the truth of what actually happened, of which brother was actually involved in the kidnapping case.
Finally.
But that is finally revealed, and SeongHyeon is messed up because his mom was like, here's the truth. Like,
he was in rough shape.
Which, okay.
Fair.
How could you not be? That's a huge thing to have dropped on you, and I don't know, they're in their 30s at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right, but that's a huge thing. That's like, I don't know.
A pivotal moment in his life
At
that kind of informed a lot of his adult life decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that it was all a facade is
huge.
It's a
life-altering.
Yeah, it literally is life-altering.
But we ended with...
Sorry.
So we end with SeongHyeon showing up at this showcase that YeongJoon and MiSo are at. And he ends up coming up to MiSo. She's at a table. And he's like, did you know? And he's like freaking out basically because he's in shock. He's like, did you know that this wasn't me? Like, did you know? Were you suspecting even? And she just looks at him and she looks up at the stage and there's this performer coming down from the ceiling and she's wearing red heels. MiSo notices her red heels and like the flashing lights and everything that's going on around, she has memory flashbacks. She gets triggered and she's like, she ends up standing up and she's like, I don't know what's happening, but also she's like, I remember, and then passes out. And we end with YeongJoon rushing to her, shoving his brother into the chairs, massively aggressive, but at the same time, like, he's not helping the situation.
Right.
Because he can't even help himself.
He knew this was the outcome.
Right. Well, but like at the same time, SeongHyeon, he can't help himself. He is spiraling so hard right now. He can't even help himself. So to be help or no help to MiSo is not his prerogative.
Yeah, he's kind of he's a sinking ship and he's taking anyone with him. He doesn't it doesn't register with him.
Right. And so YeongJoon runs to MiSo and he's like, wake up. Are you okay? Like, I need you here. And it just, that's how we ended episode 10.
Yeah, that was
so mean.
It was very cruel of the writers, but they know how to keep you coming back.
They do.
So, episode 11. Here we are.
Here we go.
A lot to sort through. Unpack, yes. So, we kind of immediately find that we're going to start looking at events through MiSo's eyes, like a young MiSo. And she is lying in her bed at nighttime, hears a sound outside, hopes it's her mom, who we know is
been in the hospital,
very sick.
Yeah.
And it's a woman in a white dress and red heels that's walking through her neighborhood in the middle of the night. And this woman promises MiSo that she's going to take her to her mother, but instead takes her to this strange building where she's keeping another little boy in a dimly lit room.
Well, and she even tells her, because MiSo looks at her and she goes, so if I stay here one night, you're going to take me to my mom. And she's like, yeah, of course.
Ugh. Ugh. Ha. It's like a mom's worst nightmare. Yeah. It's terrifying to me. It's horrible. Luckily, we're in a community where that kind of stuff doesn't really happen, but it's still horrible to think about.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to me how Korean shows will blur out certain things.
Yes.
Like injuries or blood and...
Weapons.
Or branding. Sometimes with the branding, I think it's more common that they'll put like a piece of tape over the physical shirt.
Right.
To kind of cut through the brand. But it's just, that's not something we really do on American television. If it can't air, we don't put it in. Like there's processes and approvals that go through
depending on what the rating is.
Right. And
whatever.
What the
content maybe? Am I on the right track?
Company.
Oh, okay, like with the production, like the directors and what the producers will allow?
The channel. Network. It depends on what the network is going to allow. Wow, that's really hard to get out. But in Korean shows, they will include it, but they'll blur it out. And it's interesting to me because, they do that on broadcast television, but it's interesting that they've kept it in the streaming versions, which, maybe they don't have two versions, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of a cultural difference.
But yeah, so speaking of being blurred out, we see this young boy. Of course, we know that they're cable ties around the wrists and ankles, but they are blurred out.
Baby MiSo says to this auntie, I want the same bracelet as that oppa over there.
And she's, 4 or 5? Of course she's going to think that's a bracelet, which just, I'm not a mom, but I'm an aunt to little kids, and, that hurt me.
Yeah, no, because that's just the innocence of her being in this situation and not understanding what's happening to her. So then we get back to YeongJoon being at MiSo's side in the hospital. He's waiting for her to recover, and he's also reflecting on their first meeting, which you can't really call it a meet cute in this situation.
No, it's just...
But, I mean, there's cute aspects about it.
There are, because they are so little.
And they're so kind to one another in their darkest hour.
Young MiSo sees this she ends up calling oppa the whole time, and she's just like, yeah, I just want to be with him. Like, okay, cool.
Well, and being a child in that situation, being a 9-year-old in that situation, you have no obligation to comfort other children in that. But he's trying to keep them both safe.
And the maturity, there are some kids that are just mature like that.
Yeah.
Because she is just talking to him about, my uni says that when my mom dies, I won't see her again. She's 4 or 5 in this situation. She doesn't understand death at all.
Not fully, no.
And he, at 9 years old, is trying to
dance around it for her.
Yeah, he's like, she doesn't really need to know what this means. I don't really understand it, but she doesn't need to know that, yes, when someone dies, you don't ever get to see them again. And he tries to make fun of her. And tries to make it a joke almost.
Yeah.
And is
to get her to drop it too.
Yeah, change the subject. Yeah. Please, let's move on. And she goes, you're supposed to be older than me and you don't even know this, you're stupid. And he's like, well, of course when someone dies, you can't see them again. Which of course she starts crying. And he's just like, oh crap.
Yeah, well, because it upsets this auntie. Yeah. And she appears in the doorway with a pair of scissors in her hand in a super threatening way.
So scary.
And talks about how their dad will be home from work soon. So obviously this woman is living
in a delusion.
She's not really in touch with reality. But they should wait with her, their mom, until he gets home from work. And MiSo says that her mom and dad are actually at the hospital, which makes this woman really angry.
So angry.
And SeongHyeon is trying to do damage control. He starts to call her mom, and he says, I'll take responsibility for her.
She's half asleep.
She doesn't know what she's saying. And he's just trying to kind of control the situation to keep them both alive, yeah.
Yeah.
So SeongHyeon tells MiSo that if she calms down, he'll give her something yummy to eat.
The sweetness of this child makes you want to cry.
Yeah.
I'm a highly emotional human being. Anyway, I cry at literally everything. And I think the first time I watched this, I was like about to cry. What little kid has something quote unquote yummy to eat in their pocket? And he just has some candy. Even if it was his last one, he would have given it to her just to calm her down, to keep her quiet, to keep her safe. And I told Kim earlier, I was like, I have the exact same candy.
We had a moment where we were freaking out.
We were, because I was like, oh my gosh, I know that box. I have it.
You have to understand, we live in the middle of nowhere, Podunk, USA. There is not an Asian-related mart for 4 hours near to us.
Unless you have a lead foot. Hello?
Well, I mean, okay,
but, yeah.
by legal standards, they're 4 hours.
Yeah.
And to get things here is actually really difficult.
It's a real pain.
And
anything
so
fresh.
For her to have this specific candy is like mind-blowing
to
us.
And
yeah, by chance. It wasn't even like she planned it out. No. She just happened to have it from a subscription box that she's been doing.
It was so exciting. And I was like, we have to take a picture?
Like, so it'll be up on the gram. Make sure you follow us. Shameless plug. At the K-Drama Show.
But it was just like, what child one has candy in their pocket that they're willing to share? And that is like a older sibling move almost.
Yeah.
Older cousin even, of like, hey, I have this. I'll give this to you. I just need you to be quiet and we'll get through this. And they end up falling asleep.
Well, first that auntie was watching that whole interaction from the doorway.
She was scary.
It was haunting.
Like, we're grown adults and we were like...
Sort of.
We're grown adults.
I tried to grow my best, but it got stunted. Just kidding.
But like, that was a scary moment.
It was intense.
She's just staring and you're like, oh, I could die. Easily.
Well, and he's trying so hard not to trigger her, and he has no idea what her triggers are because she's just not stable.
And he's 9. He's not supposed to know how to do this.
No.
At all.
Exactly.
But they end up falling asleep, and this auntie comes in, and she
has a rope in her hand.
Yeah, she has a rope in her hand. She has this whole speech prepared, and she's like, I gave him everything, and I got rid of the child in my belly, and he's at home sleeping with kids of his own.
Well, and it goes to show that she knows that this isn't reality.
Yeah.
She's just spiraling and taking these children down with her because she's angry and she doesn't.
And she's hurt. And this 9-year-old just tells her, why don't you just start fresh? Live your own life. We won't tell on you. Why are you bringing us into this? We want nothing to do with this. This 9-year-old child is
groveling for their lives.
Well, and he's just trying to like plead with this woman of like, please get through to this. I am so sorry that he did this to you. 9-year-olds should not apologize for anything like that. But like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Show him that you're better.
Right.
And because she ends up taking the rope and she ends up putting it to young MiSo's neck, and he's just like, no, please don't do this.
Right. And he promises that if, you just let us go, we won't say a word about it. This didn't happen, go back to living your life and please. We'll go back to ours.
Yeah. And it's just it's very profound sort of tangent. Young kids can pick up on stuff like that and be like, no, this isn't what you really want, though. Like, you want something else instead.
I don't know that kids in real life know how to necessarily verbalize those kinds of things, but they 100% pick up on those interactions and know when things are not right, even if you think you're hiding.
Yes, absolutely.
So MiSo doesn't really know how close she came with danger at this point, but the woman then proceeds to thank SeongHyeon for comforting her, and then proceeds to go in the other room, and
she takes her own life in a very, brutal regardless. It doesn't matter how. But she does it in front of SeongHyeon, and he watches this happen.
And he's begging her to not do it.
Yeah, please.
Oh, it's such a traumatic such a traumatic scene. It was awful.
It was horrible. And so then there's so many things about grown-up YeongJoon that can be attributed to this horrific, traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Of this is why he's not able to form proper attachments, relationships with women, because as a child, he watched one of the most horrific things ever.
Well, he's so courageous through it too, because he crawls into that room.
Well, he gets it to shut the door.
He starts to crawl in there to get the scissors. MiSo wakes up and he's like, "Don't look."
Because she asked him, she goes, "What's wrong with that auntie in there?"
And he goes, "It's not her. It's a giant spider."
Hence where her trauma comes from.
Yeah, her 4-year-old brain processes that as truth and says, "Oh, big spider." She starts to cry that she doesn't like spiders, which...
Hello?
I don't know, 4-year-olds aren't that gullible.
No, but I think if it's a pretty severe situation like that...
I guess they would want to believe what they...
Right, it'd be easier to...
Yeah, that's true.
Comprehend that, yeah.
So he closes the door to hide the woman from MiSo, and then later, SeongHyeon crawls into the room to find scissors to cut the cable ties off of them, and he uses MiSo to draw strength from knowing that she's relying on him to set them free.
Well, yeah, and he's crying, and she's like, "Oppa, are you crying?" And he's like, "No, it's okay. I'm okay. Just you stay there. Don't move.
Yeah,
like,
you're not looking right."
That's like big brother mode right there. I need you to be okay. I need you to not be traumatized by this, because I'm already like,
this is awful, and
freaking out.
I don't want this small child to also
be traumatized
to do this. Yeah.
Ugh.
Again, that's wisdom beyond his years, beyond a lot of people, honestly.
Many.
Misery loves company.
Yes.
So they get themselves untied. He tells her that there are certain types of spiders in Africa that are as big as people, and if you look at them, then they'll attack you. So don't look at all, and just let me lead you out of the room. And so she listens to him, and they run home hand in hand. And little MiSo,
oh my gosh,
she proposes to him.
She does. Well, first she tells him, he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. You weren't too far away. Like, your house was really close." And then she's like, "MiSo wants to marry Oppa."
Yeah. It's cute.
It's so cute, and it's such a 4-year-old. But then I love that she's like, "Are you rich?"
My dad, the important questions.
My dad told me I have to marry a rich boy. And he goes, well, my dad has a lot of money, so I guess that means that I'm rich. And she goes,
a distinction that most 9-year-olds are not going to be making.
But. No. But then she's like, "Okay, well then I want a Nana Sweet Home," which is whatever his company ends up, or his dad's company technically, ends up making. And he's like, "Yeah, okay, like, yeah, I can get you one of those." And then she's like, "Okay, like, but like MiSo wants to marry you. Like, I need you to pinky promise me that you're going to marry me." And he goes, "No, you need to marry someone you love when you're older."
That's so sweet.
But then she's just like, "Then it'll be okay if I grow up and you're the person that loves me."
Yeah.
And he's just like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah. Oh.
And then Pinky promises her that he will marry her. And like, he's too precious.
They're both too precious.
They're like the most adorable children.
They grew up to be a little hard-nosed, but for good reasons.
Right.
So YeongJoon has been recapping all of this to MiSo as she sleeps in the hospital. Just like reminding her of the bond they formed instead of the awful things.
Right. And he's not even like vocalizing it necessarily. He's just thinking back of this as like, I need you. I need you, one, but I need you to be okay.
Yeah.
And then we go back into the memory, and it's just YeongJoon's memory now. And he is leaving MiSo's house, and he's trying to go to the police station, and he sees the woman, like he has like, I don't know, he just like sees her there.
Yeah,
trauma dump, basically.
Yeah, he sees visions of her.
And he's like freaking out, which of course... He makes it to the police station, and the next thing is he's in a hospital bed, and it's his parents, of course, hovering over him, praying that he's okay. And he wakes up and hears the woman's voice again, and like remembers like her like coming at him and has a full-blown, like, I wouldn't even call it a panic attack, because I feel like a panic attack is too calm for his initial reactions.
Yeah, he's just suffering from PTSD at this point.
Right.
And then it comes back to YeongJoon wondering how MiSo was handling the experience as she's, healing from her trauma.
It's just, he ends up, like, wanting to go back to the neighborhood because he wants to find her house and he wants to check on her.
The YeongJoon,
right?
Yeah.
He's a bit heartbroken because by the time he figures out where her house is supposed to be, it's already been demolished.
Mm-hmm. They've already redeveloped it, and I think the parents were just like, get rid of it. We don't want to see it anymore.
Well, and it wasn't even the house that he was kept in. It was her house.
Her house, yeah.
And
the
so,
whole
of course,
neighborhood.
Yeah, they wouldn't know that was, important to their child. But then we just get like this montage almost of him going through life, and he's executive director, I think, at this point, and he is so uncomfortable with young women because if he sees a young woman, it ends up reminding him of the woman who kidnapped him. And we see this, we've been presented with a narcissistic, egotistical man who refuses to form attachments unless it's related to business, and self-centered and rude. That's what we've been presented with for most of the show. And now we see this very scared,
keep you at arm's length
young man who's just like, I don't know how to relate to people because I haven't overcome this and I don't know how. And so it gives you a different
perspective.
Yeah, just look at him and you're just like, oh, honey.
You're sad and broken just like the rest of us.
You just want to hug him and be like, it's gonna be okay.
But the hug probably wouldn't help because we're women.
Yes. But then we get a flashback that does not include MiSo, goodness, of cable ties.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody going, you did really, really well. So what was he seeing a therapist and like
trying to desensitize himself?
Maybe. And it's just, you just see these memories and you're just like, oh, you poor thing.
Yeah, kind of walking through life alone. Everything's grayscale, but then the sun comes out and MiSo is in his life. She's been hired by the company and she's at a welcome dinner, and the look on his face when he sees her
is so cute.
Is like seeing color for the first time.
Well, and like one of the things that like when he's reflecting, he's like, seeing you again was a dream for me. How precious. Like,
Well, and now we know that his reasoning for asking if she recognized him was that he was genuinely asking if she remembered, and part of him was hoping that she would remember, and most of him was hoping that she'd forgotten, because that would mean she'd forgotten the whole ordeal and hadn't been living her life the way that he had, which was completely undone by this whole experience.
Right. And then it was like, okay, I need you at my side now.
Yep. I've got to do everything I can to keep you with me. I found you. I will not let you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there is that possessiveness that we've seen throughout the show, but it's not what we've been led to believe it's supposed to be.
It's like she is the one thing that he trusts and knows could relate to him.
Could understand.
Through the mutual experience. Yeah. So... well, we skip a few years, and MiSo is at work. She answers a phone, and the client is speaking Japanese. She doesn't know any Japanese, and another woman comes through. She gets scolded for being in such a high position without knowing these skills, which, we had alluded to when she found her own resume, that she really wasn't that qualified to be, the executive director's secretary. So she calls her sister from the rooftop, and YeongJoon overhears that she's really struggling in this position, but she has to, continue on. So then he starts to push her to become more capable by, quote, requiring that she learn these skills as his secretary. But really he's trying to push off the criticism and make her into who she needs to be in order to maintain this position to to continue forward with him, because honestly she's going to be dead weight if she doesn't learn these things, because it's a necessity in his position, and he knows where he's heading, and he wants to bring her with him.
Well, and I just love that he walks by and he just drops this book on her desk, and it's like learning Japanese, and she's like, what? And he goes, I want you to master 30 pages a day, and I'll be quizzing you myself daily. And she's just like, daily quizzes?
I didn't know I was still in school.
What? You know, she's trying very hard, and like,
she's just not getting it.
She masters sorry.
Yeah, because that's all she can say, because she can't figure out the actual useful phrases.
And it's like days of this, and he ends up writing her a note and sticks it on her book, and it says, master as if your life depends on this. And she just is like, you know what?
She writes, Director Lee, King of the Jerks.
Yes. But she's just like, I'm going to master this. Like, I'm going to show him
purely out of spite
exactly what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up having this, like, I don't know. We're trying to learn Korean. Kim's had a lot more years of experience than I.
Oh, it's gotten me very little.
But still, we are trying very hard.
Yeah.
To at least pick up words.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll be able to have a full conversation anytime soon, but I'm gonna certainly try.
We're working on it. We know sorry.
Sort of.
Okay, one of us knows sorry.
But like, she has like, in my opinion, a fairly complex conversation in Japanese with him.
It's functional. It's a functional level of Japanese.
Like, okay, you have meetings here. This is what we have here. Da, 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 this is your schedule. Yeah. And his congratulatory gift. The look on her face is exactly what the look on my face would have been.
Well, she was so excited for it, too.
Well, yeah, because he's like, this is my first gift to anyone ever. Honey.
A little more lackluster than the first cup of tea for anyone ever, but in the same spirit.
But his gift is a book on how to speak Chinese.
Step-by-step Chinese. So, yeah, disappointment all around. But his strictness has always been with her well-being in mind. Like, he's covered for her at times to protect her position as well as her well-being. Like the night where they stayed up super late, and he says, you know, they've canceled the meeting, go home, get some rest, you've been up for 3 days straight. She goes, thank you. And then he's seen making a phone call canceling this meeting to acquire this department store or whatever it was. And so he's kind of taking bullets for her, you know, because he really wants to keep her close.
Yeah, it's just him looking out, and he's like, no, I found you. I need you with me.
Yeah.
And even if that means that I need to let you go home and actually get sleep. Hey, fun fact, people need sleep to
Funny how that works.
Continue to function.
As we're recording this at 11 at night.
Yeah, it's fine. But then when he gets promoted to CEO, she presents him with a gift, and she's like,
it's a little needlepoint keychain.
And it's very sweet.
Yeah. Like,
okay, I crochet. That's very time consuming.
Well, and she says, you know, I realize you have anything money can buy, but this is my effort and my
intention. Like, I'm, you know, like, this is very exciting. And he's just, I love his response, because he's like, I don't like it.
But you can see on his face that he does.
Oh, he loves it. He's so thrilled.
He really enjoys her effort, but he tries to save face.
Well, and he tells her, I put importance on intention, not what people give me.
Because she's like, give it back. I don't want you to have it anymore. And he goes, no, I'll keep it.
That's just,
it's gonna be framed in a shadow box on my desk.
Absolutely. You're never gonna see it, but it's gonna be there.
So we fast forward a couple more years, probably. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the desk that MiSo has is Secretary Seol's desk, because he's the CEO now.
Yeah, he's moving up.
And he apparently got Yushik's now office.
Right before.
But they had that set up. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did. Yeah.
But he's presenting her with this cake on her birthday, and it's not cheap. Done by a
very sweet
Parisian chef or something like that.
Right.
And she's pretty excited about it. She's like, can I take a photo? Drops it on the floor.
The look on both of their faces is hilarious, because he's just like, I don't buy cake for anyone.
I know.
And you just dropped it on the floor.
But then he goes, at least the way that it fell is pretty.
Oh, that's so sweet. But the look on her face is
she's
terror.
Devastated.
When she's just like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, she's about to cry. The look on her face.
She's embarrassed, and she's sad that this beautiful cake is now.
And he just tells her, you can't make that face at me on your birthday.
Yeah. Aw.
And it's just like,
aw.
It's just very sweet because he's still looking out for her.
Even
if it is.
He wants her to be happy. He did it for her to be happy, not to pat himself on the back and be like, look what I did for you. Even though that's how he plays it off.
Right.
Genuinely, he's just trying to put a smile on her face. So we go forward now to almost present day, where we reflect on her resignation and how his arrogance and cold nature has always just been a facade toward her, at least. Maybe not toward other people, but definitely toward her. And he honestly believed that they were fated from the beginning and always intended to be with her again.
Well, and especially when she tells him, hey, I'm going to quit. And he's like, but you're the only one for me. You're all I need. And again, now granted, it took him the long, long way to get there. But even... I don't think he quite realized even then how deep
and
his feelings were.
He didn't understand reciprocation because in his mind, the bond was just as deep on her end. Right. But because she couldn't remember him, there wasn't any exterior motivation to keep her there other than the job, and she didn't care about the job
anymore.
Yeah. Right. She cared about him. I think she did. But the job itself... And, there are clearly other qualified applicants out there, they could take over for me.
It's just a very sweet and very sad.
It was. It moments. It paints all of those moments with a more depth to his intentions, and maybe they don't read the correct way, and maybe, like you said, he doesn't understand them, but there's more to it than just, you don't tell me no, it's... I need you to survive.
Right. Yeah. Because we survived the worst thing.
No one else gets
you are the one who I was able to survive for almost. Because I mean, who knows? Maybe if poor young MiSo hadn't shown up, what would have happened to YeongJoon when he was 9 years old instead of thankfully the quote-unquote happy ending that they ended up having.
The alive ending. Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that follow button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. Thanks for listening to the K-Drama Show with Ashley and Kim. We'll see you next time.